Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmadgurubhyo Namaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishwaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshina Namaha Om Shri Medha Dakshina Murti Swamine Namaha Om Sahana Vavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniam Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sankapadakramopanisadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastitadadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantanna Vidusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Namaste once again, everyone.
Namaste, Guruji. Pranam.
Pranam. Namaste.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om. So, Lord Krishna is in this portion of the 7th chapter differentiating Sakama Bhakti and this Nishkama Bhakti. Sakama Bhakti is devotion and a form of worship of the Lord through which a person seeks material ends in the form of either dharma, artha or kama, or to use the expression of Kathopanishad, seeking prayers. And Krishna wants to point out that Nishkama Bhakti as that form of devotion and worship through which the person seeks the spiritual end, which is called moksha, or in the Upanishadic language, Shreyaha. So, Preyaha and Shreyaha. Preyaha represents 3 Purusharthas, and Shreyaha represents the 4th and the final Purushartha, moksha. And to contrast Sakama Bhakti and Nishkama Bhakti, first Krishna is dealing with Sakama Bhakti. And as we were seeing in the last class, I hope you all remember, we missed one class in between. But I hope the last class is still fresh in your memory. Krishna is presenting Sakama Bhakti in a symbolic language. Since a Sakama Bhakta seeks only finite material ends, Krishna symbolically presents Sakama Bhakti as worship of finite deities. And Nishkama Bhakta seeks the spiritual end, which is infinite, and therefore symbolically, Krishna presents Nishkama Bhakti as the worship of the infinite Lord. Therefore, Parichinna Devata Bhakti or Apurna Devata Bhakti is Sakama Bhakti. Aparichinna Devata Bhakti is Nishkama Bhakti. Now we will have a question. Who is a finite deity? Because finite, the very word finite, it expresses a meaning of being limited, isn't it? So, and if we analyze every deity which is there in the Sanatana Dharma, which is talked about in the Sanatana Dharma, has got a form as described in the scriptures. Take Vishnu Sahasranamam, initially, it is all description of Mahavishnu. And therefore, there is no question of infinite deities because the very picturization of a deity indicates that it is finite. Therefore, it is a contradiction to talk about infinite form because form itself means finite. And therefore, what can be an infinite deity? And what can be a finite deity is a question for which we give the answer. Any deity can be infinite deity if we choose to invoke the infinite in the deity. On the other hand, if we choose to invoke the finite thing, then the deity is called finite deity. So it is not that there are two different deities. The very same form, you can invoke it as infinite form or infinite formless, and the very same form you can invoke as a finite deity. Therefore, Rama or Krishna or Shiva or Vishnu, etc., if you talk about the form, it is finite. Krishna is form-wise finite. All the devatas described in the Smriti, Shruti, Purana, Itihasa, etc., they all have got a finite form. And in fact, if you look at, as I said, Vishnu Sahasranama, Dhyana Shloka, what is that? Kshiro Dhanma Pradeshe Shuchimani Vilasat Saikatair Muktikanam. You can picturize Vishnu Bhagavan lying down on a, Kshiro Dhanma, that is in an ocean of milk. They're all finite deities. So the very Dhyana Shloka gives a picture or form of the deity, and from the Dhyana Shloka we come to know that it is finite only. But upon the finite, we have a choice to invoke, to visualize, to imagine, to superimpose the infinite. And in the last class, we saw a very simple example. How a whole nation is superimposed on a small flag. And as I said in the Bhagavad Gita, since Lord Krishna is the main deity here, infinite God for you. So Krishna becomes a Purna Avatara in Bhagavad Gita. Now people talk about Purna Avatara, Apurna Avatara, etc. So whether it is Purnam or Apurnam depends upon how you invoke. And as I am saying, that Krishna in Bhagavad Gita represents the infinite, and therefore all other deities represent finite goals of life. And therefore, in the 20th sloka, Krishna pointed out that a Sakama Bhakta Anya Devataha Prabhadhyante. They worship the finite devatas, driven by Prakritya Niyata hai, their own Raga Dvesha hai, their own likes and dislikes. And they also are religious, they religiously observe all the rules. Actually, if they strictly observe all the rules only, they will get the benefits also. This is what he basically conveyed in the 20th sloka. Now he continues in the 21st sloka. We will read. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktah श्रद्धयार्चितुम् इच्छति tasya chalam shraddha tameva vidadhamyaham. The Anvaya of the sloka is yah bhaktah ichchati architum shraddhaya yam yam tanum aham achalam vidadhami tam eva shraddham tasya. Yah bhaktah, whoever devotee, ichchati, desires, architum, to worship, shraddhaya, faithfully, with devotion, yam tanum, whichever particular form, aham achalam vidadami, I stabilize, tam evam shraddham, tam eva shraddham, that very faith, tasya, for that, of that, for each and every such devotee. So what he is saying here in this sloka is, whichever devotee desires to worship faithfully any particular form, I stabilize that very faith of each and every such devotee. So, this Sakama Bhakta, who wants to fulfill various personal desires, he will go to the scriptures to find out which devata will fulfill what desire. And we have got a huge literature. The whole Veda Purva Bhaga is a vast literature which presents countless devatas to fulfill countless desires. In fact, there are mantras. Pashukama chinvita, vittakama chinvita, amayavi chinvita, brahmavarcha kamas chinvita. Chinvita means may you collect. Collect what? Collect firewood. For what purpose? Pashukamas. You have got desire for wealth. Pashu, represents wealth also, and also cattle. Because those days, cattle was the main form of wealth. We didn't have all this, rupee notes and coins and things like that and all. So anybody who was wealthy, who had lot of cattle, was considered to be wealthy. So if you have got desire for huge wealth, go and collect firewood, and then firewood means samit kind of thing, and then do yaga. There is a yaga meant for that. Similarly, vittakama. Now, pashukama, vittakama, we can differentiate also. Vittakama is actually wealth. Pashukama is lot of cattle. Then it says, Brahmavarcha kamas chinvita. What is Brahmavarcha? Glowing face, glowing skin in the face. That is Brahmavarcha. People say, oh, see, his face is just glowing, radiating. Brahmavarcha. So those days, Vedas prescribe, even if you want a glowing face, do certain yagas. Of course, now, of course, we have got a lot of beauty parlors for men, women also. So if you want a shining skin, Even for that, Shastra prescribed. Brahmavarchakamas chinvita. And therefore, Krishna says, Yaha yaha bhaktaha, whoever devotee, yam yam tanum architum ichati. Tanum here means, basically, tanu means body. Here it means a particular form of a particular deity. Yam yam, whichever. So, whoever devotee worships whichever deity, and it will vary from literature to literature. A person has some disease. If he is a Vishnu Bhakta, they will say, worship Dhanvantari Murti. If one is a Shiva Bhakta, they will say, worship Mrityunjaya and chant Trambakam Yajamahe mantra. Do Mrityu Devata Puja. Another person will say, Ashwini Kumara presides over Arogyam, health. Another person will say, Lord Surya represents Arogyam. So many varieties are available. You got the choice. So you choose one of them. Surya or Dhanvantari or Ashwini Kumaras or Mrityunjaya. So a Sakama Bhakta will take to one of these deities. And Krishna says, Sakama Bhakti is also a very, very much valid Bhakti only. Therefore, their desires will certainly be fulfilled. But on one condition. What is the condition? Shraddhaya architum ichhati. One should worship that particular deity with faith and devotion to fulfill a particular desire. And then certainly the desire will be fulfilled. So what is important is Shraddha, faith and devotion. In fact, there is a sloka in the Shastras. Mantre tirthe duje deve daivagye bheshaje gurahu yadrishi bhavana yasya siddhir bhavati tadrishi. Beautiful sloka. There are 7 items or entities which will give you the benefit directly proportional to your faith and devotion. What are they? Mantre, the chanting of the mantras. Tirthe, the pilgrimages. Dvije, Dvije basically means twice born. Here it is referring to a Brahmana. Not today's so-called Brahmanas. Don't confuse. Today only the namesake Brahmanas are there. Nobody practices either the karma of Brahmana nor anybody has got the guna of a Brahmana also. But here is the Brahmana as defined in the Vedas. Then Deve, Devatas. Daivagnye. Daivagnye means, refers to an astrologer. Because in olden times, and even today also, some astrologers are there. But more specifically in olden times, a qualified astrologer was considered as an emissary of Ishvara, ambassador of Ishvara. And when he used to predict something, it was taken as Ishvara's words. And that's why astrologers used to practice very strict sadhanas. They have got certain rules. Anybody could not have become just an astrologer. So much upasana they have to do. They have to study the, Jyotisha Shastra and all that. And before even doing any prediction, they have to pray to Bhagawad. All that is there. And then, all that is when it is there, whatever comes out of their mouth, that prediction comes true. Because people feel that it is Ishvara speaking through this astrologer. So, Daivajne. Then Beshajhe, a doctor. Doctor also, you have to go to a doctor with faith. You may know the doctor, you may not know the doctor. For example, suppose first time you are going to a doctor, you have to go there with faith. It's only after you experience that, then, depends upon whether the faith is reinforced or not reinforced. Very important. You cannot go to a doctor saying, I don't know whether this fellow is going to heal me or not, but I will try. If you go with that, certainly 99% you will not be healed. And then lastly, Guru, one's Guru. So higher the faith, higher the benefit. No faith, no benefit. And in that Ishvara Bhakti is also included. And therefore, Shraddhaya Architum Ichati. If that happens, then what will happen? Tasya tasya Shraddham Achalam Vidadhami. I reinforce his bhakti by fulfilling his desire. Now, how does our faith and devotion gets reinforced? We pray for something, we get it reinforced. Oh, this deity is really very effective. My prayer has been answered. And Krishna says, when that happens, I am the one who is fulfilling, by fulfilling his desire, I am reinforcing his bhakti. Aham achalam vidadhami. Because faith is reinforced only in one way, and that is when your desire is fulfilled. When it is done, faith is naturally reinforced. So what happens? Next problem comes, again you run. And not only you run, you propagate the message also. See, I prayed to so and so Bhagawad, I went to so and so temple, I did this vratam, and it happened. Within 3 months, sir, you won't believe, my daughter, for whom I was looking for a groom, for the last 3 years, 3 months, the marriage settled and it's over. Such a powerful, deity. Hearing that, another person runs. And then more people run. And that is how the temples become so popular. Why temples? Even Swamijis become popular. If people experience that by going to a Swamiji, and they pour out all their problems, and the Swamiji gives some solution, and that works. He will give some vibhuti. Put, go home, problem solved. Then you will find a long queue outside this ashram. But the very same Swamiji, if he say, okay, all your problems I can solve by only one thing, come to Vedanta class, you will get moksha. You can imagine how many people will turn up rather. And therefore Krishna says, I fulfill the desire and thus reinforce the devotee's devotion, his shraddha. Now, here you have to note one very important point. What did Krishna say? He says, whichever anya devata he or she prays to with shraddha, I will fulfill his desire, his or her desire. That's what he says. But actually they are doing puja to whom? They are doing puja to anya devata, some finite devatas. So what Krishna should say? Like, so many Swamijis say, go to so and so temple, pray to that particular God, he will fulfill your desires. So Krishna also must say that go and do prayer to Anya Devata, and those deities will fulfill. Instead, Krishna says, I fulfill their desires. What does he mean by saying that? What is the significance of this statement? For that, you should remember what we have already discussed. That's why initially in the introduction I told about Sakama Bhakti and Nishkama Bhakti. The very same deity can be a finite deity, the very same deity can be an infinite deity depending upon how you invoke that deity, the form. So here in the Gita, Krishna represents the totality, the infinite. And all other deities represent what? Finite deities. And therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, the reference to Anya Devata is to the finite devatas. Krishna is infinite. Now, since Krishna represents infinite and all other devatas are finite devatas, all other devatas will become part of Krishna only. Because all finite things are part of the infinite, isn't it? All finite things put together is infinite. So all finite should be included in the infinite. If it is not included in the infinite, what will happen? The infinite would not be infinite, and therefore all devatas will become part of Krishna. And since all the devatas are part of Krishna, the infinite, any worship you give to a part, it will go to the whole. And therefore, Krishna alone is receiving every worship which is offered to any deity. Here, Krishna, we must not again understand as Krishna, the finite deity. Here, we have to understand Krishna as the infinite deity, Paramatma. So, whatever we are offering, whatever prayers we offer, whatever namaskara we offer, everything ultimately through those devatas goes to infinite Paramatma only, infinite Paramatma Krishna only, in the context of Bhagavad Gita. And that is what is said even in this famous sloka. Akashat patitantoyam yata gacchati sagaram sarvadeva namaskara keshavam prati gacchati. It is only we human beings with our limited intellect, we are making all difference, Vishnu, Shiva and all that. Ultimately, there is only one reality, one Bhagavan, one God. In fact, as I say, only God, there is nothing else. So just like, the water which is actually coming down as rain from the sky, and they all rush towards wherever it is, through rivers, rivulets, they all rush towards what? Sagaram only, the ocean. Similarly, any offering made, any prayer made to any devata, sarvadeva namaskara hai, keshavam pratigacchati. Keshavam, the infinite Lord, the Paramatma, pratigacchati, goes to him only. And that is why if we understand that, we will understand here in this sloka, when Krishna says I, he is referring to that Keshava, the infinite. And therefore, Shiva Puja will go to Krishna, Ganesha Puja will go to Krishna. And since Puja is received by Krishna, not directly, but through the various devatas, the Puja Phalam also is given by Krishna only. But Krishna will not give the Puja Phalam directly. He will also go through proper channel. He will give the puja phalam through whichever deity he received the gift, received the offerings, received the prayers. And therefore what happens? Shiva Bhakta thinks that he prayed to Shiva. Shiva gave him the fruits. That he has worshipped Shiva and Shiva has blessed him. What's the fact? Through Shiva, the puja went to Krishna. And through Shiva, Krishna gave the phalam also. Same case with Vishnu. So all other devatas will become pipelines or conduits, and Krishna will become the ultimate deity. And therefore Krishna says, Tasya Tasya, of such each and every bhakta who worships through a particular deity with steadfast faith and devotion, tam eva shraddham, that very faith and devotion, aham achalam vidadami, I reinforce and stabilize. Because at a lower level of maturity, we don't understand all these things. So Krishna says, no problem. If you don't understand, no issue. You go and Vishnu or Shiva or whomsoever finite devata you worship, you will get the result. And your faith will be reinforced, Shraddha will be reinforced. No problem with that. Continue with that. Because eventually, when you mature, you will understand the entire reality of this entire creation. Till such time, this is very good. This kind of Anya Devata Bhakti is good. Go continue with that. I am here standing and I will actually stabilize that Bhakti by giving you all that you desire in your life. So remember, if you are a Shiva Bhakta, you need not get disturbed because of that. Because in Shiva Puranam, what will be said? Shiva receives all the puja through other devatas. Now, how should you convert this logically? We should forget Shiva, Vishnu, who are all mere agents of the infinite. So logically, you should understand that the principle is infinite God, who receives all puja through finite form. And that infinite God, you can call by any name. You can call him Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, Devi, Jesus, Allah. You can call by any name. Father in heaven, you can call. But we do not bother about the name. But what you are interested in knowing is that whether you see it as an infinite or not. Invocation is important, not the form. And that is why, if you take any Ashtotra Archana, you will find that certain names will be common for all. The description will be different in Ashtotra. Shiva description will be different. Vishnu description will be different. But certain namas will be common. Anantaya Namaha, you will find it in all Ashtotras. Sarvagataya Namaha, all pervading, you will find in all Ashtotras. Now, when you are chanting the Ashtotra Nama, and if you know the meaning, you should logically think, how can Shiva also be Sarvagata? How can Vishnu also be Sarvagata? So, we have to understand that beyond the form, beyond the names, there is something which is what ultimately I am praying to. And that's why, in Vishnu Sahasranama, we have got one Nama. Sarvasharvas Shivasthanuhu. Isn't it? Shivasthanuhu. Now, if that is so, how can you say, I will worship only Vishnu or only Shiva? We say all these things because of our ignorance. And therefore, Krishna says here, Aham tasya tasya achalam vidadami. So you can choose whatever God you want. Ultimately, Krishna is there and he will ensure your bhakti. He will ensure that you get what you are desiring, provided your bhakti is with Shraddha. with faith and devotion. Okay. Now Krishna continues now. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktaha Tasya Labhate Chattata Kaman Mayaiva Vihatan Hitan. Anmaya is Yuktaha Taya Shraddhaya Saha Ihate Tasya Aradhanam Cha Tatah Labhate Tan Kaman Hi Vihitan Maya Eva. Same thing, saying it in a different perspective. Yuktaha, endowed with. Taya Shraddhaya, with that faith. Sahi ihate, he engages in. Tasya aradhanam, the worship of that form. Cha tataha, and from that, labhate, he attains. Tan kaman, all those desired ends. He vihitan, which are indeed granted. Maya eva, by me alone. So, endowed with that faith, he engages in the worship of that form, and from that he attains all those desires which are indeed granted by me alone. Now, as we have seen, since one infinite God fulfills the desires of the devotee through a particular deity, the devotee is going to say that Shiva fulfilled my desire, and therefore Shiva is the most effective deity. He fulfills everyone's desire. Another person worships another deity, say Tirupati Balaji, and his desire also will be fulfilled. And he will say Balaji is the most effective deity. Another person will say Ayyappa is the real fulfiller. Another person will say Muruga is the real fulfiller. Another person will say Srinathji is the real deity who fulfills all the desires. You go further north, person will say Mata Vaishno Devi is the most effective deity, or Jagannath of Puri is the most effective. So every person thinks that his God is superior. And Krishna says, allow each one of them to entertain such a conclusion. And therefore he says, Saha Taya Shraddhaya Yuktaha. Whoever is endowed with faith and devotion, Tasya Aradhanam Ihate, engages in that worship of that particular form. Cha Tatah Labhate Tan Kaman. And from that he attains all his desired ends, the object of his desire. Here we have to understand Kaman not merely as desires, but the desired ends, the object of desire. Actually, for Sanskrit students, Kaman is karma vyutpatti. Kamyate iti Kaman. So, Kaman Vishayan Labhate. That's how we have to understand. Now, because of the fulfillment of the desire, his bhakti has been reinforced. Shiva Bhakti, Balaji Bhakti, all those bhaktis for the respective devotees have been reinforced. And more worship he does, the more benefit will also come. So, Tatah Kaman Labhate, he is able to fulfill more and more desires because of that bhakti and because of that aradhanam, that worship. And Krishna says even those devotees think that it is their respective devatas who are fulfilling their desires. That is not the case. They are actually not fulfilling the desires because all of them are finite devatas. Then who fulfills the desires? Krishna says, Tan kaman hi vihitan maya eva. Tan kaman, those desired objects of desire, vihitan. Vihitan means given by, blessed by, offered by, sanctioned by me alone. I alone give the ultimate sanction. So Maya Vihitan. Maya here represents Krishna, the infinite God. So the fulfillment of all their objects of desires is done by me alone because I am the infinite Lord. This way, I reinforce and stabilize their bhakti by fulfilling the desires through that particular deity. And if you look at it, the message of this mantra and the message of previous mantra are not much different. Why it is repeated? So that it goes into our mind. And normally we do, anything if we want the other person to understand very clearly, we will repeat it twice. In fact, we will ask him also, did you understand? If you are not understood, I will tell you once more. That is why, more or less, it's the same message Krishna is giving, but in two different slokas. So, eventually, what he is saying here also is that the finite devatas are seemingly blessing the devotees, but really speaking, those devatas are only conduits. Because even the blessing power which the finite devatas have got, that blessing power also I have given it to, I the infinite God has given it to them. Because of me alone, they are also able to give this blessing. And therefore, the infinite Krishna is giving the blessing power to all finite devatas. And those finite devatas are in turn blessing the devotee. And therefore, the ultimate source of all blessings is infinite Krishna alone. And all other finite deities are postmen. They just deliver the blessings given by me to the devotee. They are only intermediaries. Krishna Paramatma alone is the ultimate receiver of all worship. Krishna Paramatma alone is the ultimate karma phala data also. And that is why, at the end of the 5th chapter, Krishna said, if you remember, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam jnatvam mam shanti mrichati. I am the ultimate receiver of all pujas. They said, Sarvadeva Namaskara hai, Keshavam Prati Gacchati. And this is all to show that in the context of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is infinite and all other devatas are finite. And therefore, if you want moksha, whom should you go to? In the context of Bhagavad Gita, you become Arjuna, go to Krishna. If it is Navaratri, I am doing Devi Bhagavata Parayanam. If you want moksha, you should go to the Devi. Therefore, do not be enamored by the form. No form is superior, no form is inferior. What is inferior and superior is determined by what you invoke in that form. So, to sum up, Krishna says, Sakama Bhakti is valid. Sakama Bhakti will also be successful. So here in these slokas, he talks about the plus points of Sakama Bhakti. What are the advantages, positives? Later he will talk about the minus points of Sakama Bhakti also. Because Krishna's intention is not to make us Sakama Bhakta. Krishna wants us to ultimately become Nishkama Bhakta. And therefore, not only he talks about the plus point, he talks about the minus points also. So there is nothing wrong if you ask anything from any God. Many people say, God knows everything, but he is not blessing me with what I want. Which is true. But God knows you want many things. But he cannot decide which one you want first and which one later. If you leave it to him, God will give you the best, which is moksha. But you don't want that. You have never, that is not in your checklist. Bhagavan is ready to give moksha. He is ready to give the infinite. But as finite people, we keep on asking for finite things. So he will give finite things only. If you become a mumukshu and ask only for moksha, he will give you moksha. If you become a spiritual seeker, you ask for chitta shuddhi, he will give you chitta shuddhi. And therefore, Bhagavan cannot decide what you want. You alone have to decide. And that is why Bhagavan said, I have already equipped you with free will. I have given you a very beautiful intellect, a beautiful mind. The entire creation, everything in the creation, all knowledge is all available for you. Use all that and then you decide for yourself what you want. You ask me for finite, I'll give you finite. You ask me for infinite, I will give you infinite. So Bhagavan is not going to decide for us. And that is why, in the Shastra, before every puja, there is a sankalpa present. Please give me this, please give me that. Isn't it? Why I am doing this puja? Dharmartha kama moksha siddhyartham. Give me all. Now we have become very greedy also. We don't ask just something. Everything in the world we will say. Shancha me, mayascha me, priyancha me, kamascha me. All that. Chame, chame. Give me this, give me this, give me this. Everything in chamakam they will include. Now Bhagavan has to decide in what order he has to give you all those things, isn't it? So the very purpose of Sankalpa is for you to decide and seek. And as I said, there is nothing wrong in seeking a particular phalam that you want. And therefore, Sakama Bhakti is valid. It will produce the result if puja is properly done. And that is a very big if. Because once it is a Sakama puja, as we have discussed earlier, the rules and regulations have to be strictly followed. Krishna will emphasize this point very often. In Sakama puja, rules and regulations becomes very important to be carefully and minutely observed. And if any one of them is violated, you won't get the result. So observe the rules, then it will produce the result. So these are all the plus points of Sakama Bhakti. Now Krishna is going to talk about the minus points. Okay. We will read Sloka 23. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. So the Anvaya is tat phalam tesham alpamedhasam tu antavat bhavati. Devayagya madbhakta devayagyo devayagya yanti devan devayagya yanti devan madbhakta yanti mam api. Tat phalam, that result. Tesham alpamedasam, accruing to those indiscriminate ones. Tu antavad bhavati is indeed finite. Devayagyaha yanti. The worshippers of God attain. Devan, the gods. Mat bhaktaha, the worshippers of me. Yanti, attain. Mamapi, me also. So the result accruing to those indiscriminate ones is indeed finite. The worshippers of God attain the gods. The worship of me attain me only. So after presenting the benefits, now Krishna wants to give a statutory warning. Like what we have got in the cigarette packets and all, No, many years ago, when I was all young, there used to be advertisements in the magazines, newspapers about smoking, the benefits of smoking with some female models and all, smoking and all, as if it's a very, what I say, the in thing rather. It was shown as a virtue. Now, such advertisements I don't see because I think they are all banned. Now they have a statutory warning on the cigarette packet itself. Smoking is injurious to health. Right? So anybody who smokes, they are not stopping you from smoking. Smoke, but understand the downside of smoking. Now I think they've introduced smoking causes cancer or something like that. There's a lot of the wordings and all, lot of controversy always is there. Whatever it is, that's a warning rather, statutory warning. And Krishna is exactly doing that. He says Sakama Bhakti is wonderful, enjoyable, valid. You can fulfill all your materialistic desires. You can get sense pleasures. But there is a problem. What is that? Every worldly gain, every materialistic gain has got a certain intrinsic dosha, intrinsic defect, which can be classified into three varieties. Swami Paramarthananda beautifully explains this. Every materialistic end, either belonging to this world or even to Swargaloka, has got intrinsically three defects. What are those defects? In fact, one of the earlier classes, we have discussed those defects. But again, we will review or revise them. Excuse me. The first defect is dukkha mishritvam. All worldly accomplishments are mixed with equal amount of pain also. Just as the two sides of the coin. All worldly pleasures have got pain also. First, there is pain in accomplishing that, isn't it? Acquiring anything is not an easy thing. There's a stiff competition. You have to fight the competition, getting a job, so much competition, you have to get a job. And even to enter the competition, you have to fight. Everywhere we see heavy competition. Therefore, the first thing is acquisition involves what? Struggle, anxiety, tension, worry, fear, jealousy. You want to beat the others to whatever you want. Everybody is wanting the same thing. And once I have acquired, the problem is retaining it. So yoga, the achievement, is followed by kshema, the problem of preservation. So arjane dukkham, rakshane dukkham. In fact, you buy a big house, very good, you have struggled hard, got a house. Then security threat. Some burglar will come. So you appoint the security. And security itself is it's a big question mark. Where we have seen one security guards killing a prime minister of our country. How much you can trust the security? So another dukkham, another pain, another anxiety. So arjane dukkham, rakshane dukkham. Okay. Acquisition struggle, preservation struggle, and then however much you struggle to preserve it, in spite of your effort and care, everything will be lost in time. All material accomplishments will be lost in time. And the ultimate loss also will give pain. And that pain will be directly proportional to the pleasure I have derived. As Krishna said in the 5th chapter, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga hai dukkhayo naya evachate. Every worldly pleasure is a potential pain. And this pain is called, and this pain is born out of nasha. Therefore, arjane dukkham, rakshane dukkham, nashe dukkham. Therefore, any pleasure is mixed with dukkham, and we call it dukkha mishritvam. This is negative point number 1. And the second defect in all worldly accomplishments is atriptikaratvam. Since every accomplishment is finite in nature, limited in nature, the joy of achieving something has a short life. We are never satisfied with what we have. We always think of the next higher possibility, what the other person has. And we always find that someone else has got more than what we have. And therefore, I never enjoy what I have. I always suffer from the disease of comparison. And comparison invariably leads to inferiority complex and jealousy. This is called dissatisfaction, discontentment. In Kathopanishad, Nachiketas makes a bold statement, Vittenana tarpaniyo manushya. By wealth, by money, na tarpaniyo. People do not get pleased. Manushya hai, na tarpaniyo. No human being will be satisfied with any amount of wealth. And otherwise, imagine why should there be corruption at higher levels? Businessman having earned, crores and crores, still they do all sorts of hanky-panky things. Even though it is wrong, we can understand, low-paid employees doing some corruption, taking some money and all that. Understandable. He has to sustain a family and all. But why at higher levels? Because satisfaction never comes. So the second defect is atruptikaratvam. Pujya Swamiji used to say, he is a poor rich man or a poor moneyed man. Previously, he was poor without money. Now he is poor with money. The poverty, the inner bankruptcy will not go because finite plus finite is equal to finite. Therefore, since all accomplishments keep me in finite level, my distance from infinity is the same. And therefore, I continue to be apurnam. So thinking that I am traveling towards Purnatvam, I keep traveling from one Apurnam to another Apurnam in material accomplishment. So the second defect is Atriptikaratvam. And the third and final defect is, we have already seen, bandhakatvam. Bandhakatvam is becoming a slave. We will see more of that in the next class. Okay, time is up. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Dhanyavada hai everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Hari
much,
Om
Guruji.
Guruji.
Namaskaram.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hariom Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You.
Dhanyawad.
Dhanyavada. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Very, very nice session. Every, as I think I had mentioned earlier, that many years ago I started making attempt to self-learn Gita by using one of the books, one of the Gita books, where the commentaries are written by one Swami Chidbhavananda from Ramakrishna Matha. So where it is the Anvaya Artha, Pratipadartha and Anvaya, and the shloka meaning with the commentary was given. So I was thinking that I made an attempt. I was not thinking anything at that time. I used to make an attempt to learn the what is given in the Gita book. Okay, but then every time I went up to a certain level and then stopped, because beyond that it would be very confusing, and then I would be more confused than the previous times. I used to stop. And then, with every session, with the explanation in detail, my decades of doubts are getting cleared, Guruji. Thank you very much for that.
That's
Especially,
why, Guru is important. Self-study
yes,
is
Guruji.
not recommended, rather.
Yes, Guruji. And after I've started attending these classes, these sessions, that's what I've been gently conveying to others as well. Whoever has said that I'm trying to study Upanishad from the books or Gita from the books, I keep repeating what you've been saying. Out of personal experience, is so many of the doubts getting cleared. Yeah, every time there'll be more doubts. But then,
doubts will always be there. Till you reach the 18th chapter, you will have doubts. Right?
yeah.
So
Yes.
that is it. Because when we are listening, our intellect is actually working. So working intellect gets doubt, right?
Yes.
We are just listening like a story, no doubt will be there. What is there? You will say, okay, this is also okay, that's also okay. But when
Yes.
we are really having a goal, we want to achieve something in the spiritual field, we want doubtless knowledge to come out, isn't it? Many
Yes.
times doubt will come to us. Many times the acharyas will themselves realize such a doubt can come and they will answer. Like what we are seeing in Mundaka Upanishad,
Yes.
Bhashyakara himself assumes that such a doubt can be there and he goes ahead and answers that doubt.
Yes,
That's the
Guruji.
beauty of these shastras.
Yes, Guruji. That is the one thing that always used to kind of haunt me initially was Krishna is saying, don't do that, don't do that, just believe in me, believe in me. That never made any sense at that time. But it is making more and more sense. But then something what you said earlier, what Krishna said, that if you ask for the infinite, he will give you infinite. If you ask for only the finite, he'll bless you only with the finite.
Yeah.
But by that, then I was thinking like my argumentative mind started saying that you will only want to acquire something that you already know that's there. But mokshatva is something we don't know, so how can we ask for it? But it's only over the many janmas, after all the wishes are fulfilled, then the mind starts inquiring there must be something more and not just the infinite. So
Yes.
now not just the finite. So and when we reach that stage is when we start looking for the answer, and Krishna gives us the blessing. Thank you very much for the beautiful session, Raghuji. Namaste. And Guruji.
Namaste.
Hari
Any
Om,
other
Guru.
question?
Just for reference, it has
continuation of Monday's thing where Krishnanji asked about personalized and internal. I feel it is more internalizing the God rather than personalizing.
Yes.
It was just a thought that occurred.
Yeah. Internalizing. That is what it is. Everything message is coming through Gita. We must actually digest that message.
Yes.
And absorb the nutrients from that. Then only the spiritual growth will take place.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Namaskar. Hari Om.
Namaste, Hari Om. Okay, I think no more questions are there. Anything there?
I think we can close it for the day.
I'll close for the day and then continue next Friday. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Hari Om. Good night, Guruji.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.